Um, I am now pleased to introduce Ken Cavanagh. Uh, Ken earned his Master in Science in Information Technology from Stevens Institute of Technology and holds certification as a Certified Information Security Manager and a Certified Career Management Coach. With a 30-year career as a global executive in Fortune 500 IT leadership, Ken's experience includes roles at Cisco, Dell, Verizon, and the NBA, with 2 decades dedicated to cybersecurity. His leadership background is extensive. He previously served as the director of career advising and graduate programs at Fordham University's Gabelli School of Business and has led global cybersecurity consulting organizations with budgets exceeding $150 million, personally hiring and developing hundreds of employees worldwide. As artificial intelligence becomes an integral part of our lives, Ken will explore how AI elements shape our daily experiences. He will demystify common misconceptions and highlight practical applications in healthcare, virtual assistance, safety, transportation, and communication. We will enjoy the presentation from Ken for sure. Please welcome me, or welcome, help me welcoming Ken Cavanagh.
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you, Alberto, for that kind introduction. Pulled off my LinkedIn profile, no doubt. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you guys today about AI. One of the things I want to mention about AI right now, before we go any further, is trying to define and wrap your hands around AI is like trying to wrap your hands around water. Basically, you can't catch it all, you just get wet. We're going to dive into a lot of different things here today. And Joel, let me bring up the presentation, right? All right. You'll notice the title is called Embracing Artificial Intelligence. What I mean by that is you don't have to like it, but you do have to embrace it because, as Alberto mentioned in the introduction, it's here. It's not going anywhere. The genie is out of the bottle and you're not putting it back in. So I know there's a lot of people who are a little skeptical about it. Some people flat out say, I hate it. That's okay. We just have to learn to work with it and live with it. So here's the agenda I'm going to go through, introduce myself again. What's AI? The kind of hype and headlines you're hearing about. The impact that we see today. Basically going through all that, using it today, and some of the scams and things you need to be aware of, particularly all of us as seniors, because we are very, very big targets. And I'll talk a little bit about that with my experience in cybersecurity. And then the best part is you guys asking questions. Because like I said, we can't cover anything. I could do a whole semester on AI if I wanted to, but I'm really looking forward to your questions. Okay, so here's my shameless ego slide about myself. Alberto just mentioned all that. You can see it for yourself, what I did. Not much important there, but just so you guys know. Also, 34-year resident here in New Providence. So I'm finally discovered what the old guard is after all these years. I've seen the ads in the papers and the meeting announcements. I'm like, gee, I wonder what those guys do. Well, now I know. And by the way, from the songs this morning, you're going to hear that AI is a little bit like Puff the Magic Dragon. Okay, so what is AI? All right. Is this AI? Yeah. It's human beings working with a computer that's got a computerized brain. That's AI today. It's not this. Okay, it's not the Terminator. Not yet. That was meant to be a joke, but what's the AI definition? AI, artificial intelligence, mimics human intelligence for computer systems. Mimics. I want you to focus on that word. Hasn't replaced us yet. It mimics human intelligence. It's getting better. It's getting faster. Ultimately, it will get cheaper. Not there yet. Okay. It allows computer systems to quickly analyze data. Now, computers have always been able to quickly analyze data, going back to the mainframes they used up at Murray Hill and Bell Labs for many, many years. It's gotten even faster. Why? Because computers have gotten faster and more powerful, have more memory. I think you've probably all heard that if you have a smartphone, you've got more computing power than they had to break the Nazi code in World War II. That's just the fact of the matter. How many people here are familiar with the term Moore's Law? Okay. What is it? Anybody want to? Go ahead, Merv. First part, absolutely correct. Computing capacity doubles every 18 months. It used to be every 3 years. Now it's every 18 months. So that's what's led to AI. Okay. So why? There's a lot of reasons for the development of AI. Now, in order to read my slides, I have to put my glasses on. So I'm not looking back. Okay, you can see repetitive tasks. All right, that's a big reason for it. Enhanced analysis, availability, reliability. Some of you might take issue with some of those things, but they're out there. A competitive advantage in business, and it's got a significant impact on society, which we're all seeing. Okay. The technology bottom line, to your point, Herb, about Moore's Law, and the reason that exists is this. Okay. Any human tasks that are basic skilled, labor intensive, time consuming, repetitive, purely objective, yes, no, predictable, high volume, error prone, or hazardous, will eventually be augmented, downsized, or replaced by technology. You have all seen that in your careers. All of us here are old enough to remember, I was telling Alberto earlier, that when Microsoft first put out the Excel spreadsheet, it was going to eliminate the accounting profession. I think it's made the accounting profession even bigger. My father-in-law is 91 years old, lives on his own in Chester, and I spent a lot of time with him on AI because he has a lot of questions. He's an accountant, a retired CFO. My wife is an accountant. So that business, that task has gone nowhere. It's just been made more effective by Excel and things like that. AI is going to be doing that for many, many industries. And I'll talk a little bit later about what the impacts are and why there's so much hype around it. Okay, so here's some examples. I think one of the first examples that everybody is aware of from technology replacing humans was really in the automotive industry, where robots took over the assembly line. Did it eliminate all assembly line workers? No. Did it eliminate a lot of the first level ones? Yes. But hopefully, people can get retrained and do different things, but this will happen. You can see home aids. What I mean by that is not people, but vacuums, Roombas, lawnmowers, things that can move automatically. Customer service. How many of you remember when you had to go into the bank and write out a deposit or a withdrawal slip and hand it to a person? When was the last time anybody did that? I can't even remember. And my mother was a bank manager. Recreation, travel websites. How many people still use a travel agent? A few. If you want that personal service, and that's what AI can't do. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Drones, of course, drones are everywhere now. For entertainment, for surveillance, for military, law enforcement, they're everywhere. So that's an example of AI. There is built-in intelligence in a drone. And then jobs. That's the big impact. That's the one that scares the most people. And we'll talk about that a little later too. Okay. Now, just so you know, it gets a lot of hype now, but AI is not new. It's been around, as you can see on my chart here, from the 50s. Anybody like to guess when the term AI, artificial intelligence, was first coined? Anybody? Close. Very close. 1956. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay. We're at the stage right now of what they call generative AI. You'll hear that a lot, and I'll talk a little bit about that. That's actually becoming a past term even today. Everything you're hearing today beyond the history is going to change within the next month, within the next week, maybe even by the time we get out of here, because that's the nature of AI and what it's doing. Okay, so here are some of the milestones. Back in the 1950s, the Turing test. Everybody know Alan Turing, the famous World War II code breaker. He was the first man who came up with the term thinking machine instead of a machine that just did labor. Okay. 1956, the Dartmouth workshop, which I just mentioned, a group of academics got together to talk about where the thinking machines were going, and they coined the term artificial intelligence. First time it was heard. And you can see ELIZA was the first computer that could talk back to you. Very, very rudimentary. Some of you may remember hearing about that. Hopefully, maybe one of you even used it. In the 70s, you had MySyn, which was for the medical profession, which was able to diagnose and suggest treatment. Had some quirks and hiccups, so it never made it out into the marketplace, but it was the first step of doing that. NavLab, you can see that, 1986, early example of a self-driving car. And then we have Deep Thought, which then became Deep Blue, which many of you might remember that headline. IBM's computer beat Garry Kasparov, the chess grandmaster. That was the one that really got a lot of people's attention. Okay. Now, after that, we kind of had what they call the AI winter. Funding dried up. Many of the systems that were AI were considered brittle. Does anybody know what brittle means for technology? It means when it runs into something it's never seen before or can't handle, it basically just shuts down. It's kind of like your kids when you try and talk to them. Just, I don't know, things like that. And my 3 kids do that too, so I mean. After that, however, also the global financial crises, various ones in the early 2000s, as you all remember, led to a lot of, let's just hunker down and do what we do well because we need to make money. I can't be spending a lot of money on this AI development. What then happened was that computers then became, as these companies exited the financial crisis, they started looking about, let's go back and revisit that AI world because we may be able to make even more money. Now, just as an aside, from a lot of the management consulting work that I've done over the years, I've found that I've been able to kind of distill down. And I used to ask this question of my graduate students. What things do companies, organizations, people care about the most in their day-to-day business? And people would give me all kinds of answers. They want people who are dedicated. They want to have innovation, blah, blah, blah. All true. But it really comes down to 3 things. And I don't care if it's a business, a school, a church, a hospital, it doesn't matter. They only care about 3 things. Number 1, make money. Number 2, save money. Number 3, reduce risk. And if you do enough of number 1, you don't care about number 2 and number 3. And that's what AI is doing in the marketplace right now. I'm going to show you a slide a little bit later about following the money, which is right here. Okay. Exponential. We've had venture capital funding move into AI like never before. Those of us who remember the internet when it first came out in the internet bubble of the early 2000s, there was a tremendous amount of VC funding. I was involved in some startups back then as well. This is exponentially higher than what we saw back then. The dollar signs are just out of control. As you can see, investments went in just 7 years from 18 billion to over 119 billion. Money is being poured into this left and right, and not just from tech firms. We outrank the rest of the world in our investments, although the rest of the world, particularly one country in particular, China, is catching up. And the commercial sector for AI is dominated by the big tech companies, all the players, all the people you know. Okay? They're all invested in what we call generative AI. Now, original AI was basically a computer doing basic tasks. Like I said, yes, no, ABC, 1, 2, 3. Now, generative AI is the ability to create unique content. That's the big difference. The computer itself, based upon what's been input into it, can create unique content. You probably all remember in the early days of computers, the term garbage in, garbage out, which referred to if you put the wrong data in or incorrect data, the computer will give you incorrect answers. With AI, even by putting bad data in certain cases, not all, the computer can weed out the bad data and still give you a reasonable output. So that's a sea change in how you look at technology and how you look at computers. Okay. It creates that kind of unique content, which is very threatening to creative arts, very threatening to white collar executives. This is the first time in history what AI has done has threatened the white collar and the management class in businesses. You know, when it replaced blue collar guys on the assembly line, when it replaced farming in certain cases where you don't need as many people, senior executives in a lot of companies kind of shrugged that and say, well, that's, you know, that's the price of moving forward and making more money and doing better. Now it's hitting them. You want to see some scared people. If you know anybody in the big consulting firms, they're terrified of what AI is doing, especially at that first level. And when the partners can't put their thumb on a report and charge $500 an hour for that, they're getting very scared. AI can do it for free. This is the first time it's really hit at those levels of executive and white collar work. And that's what's leading to a lot of this hype and a lot of some of the things that you're hearing in the marketplace. Okay. Okay, so who are the bigger players? Some of these names you're probably familiar with. Some of these names you may have been investing in. But you see, from infrastructure, cloud computing, what you're most familiar with as a user, Microsoft, Alphabet / Google, Amazon, they're using a lot of different things. From the hardware side, you've all heard the hype about NVIDIA. They've done a tremendous job. But when you're a leader in a nascent business, two things happen. You make a lot of money and you get a lot of press, but you also get a big target on your back. And other companies are coming for NVIDIA and they're investing the money in it. There was some news today about what Meta is doing and investing in chips with AMD to go against and come after NVIDIA. And TSMC, which if you don't know the initials is Taiwan Semiconductor, big competitor with NVIDIA and is doing very well and has a different labor structure, obviously, in the East. Okay. The software specialist, OpenAI, first ones to really get out there and let people know what AI is from a generative AI perspective with ChatGPT. How many guys here have used ChatGPT? Curious. What's your opinion? Sorry? It's good. You like Gemini? Gemini is good. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. You know, I agree with you on that. I've done a lot of things on the technical side myself with that, and I spend an awful lot of time proofreading ChatGPT stuff. Also, they've gone to a different model now. First, everybody could use it. It was, it's the drug dealer model. Give it away for free, and then when they all like it, now it's behind a paywall. You get about 5 questions per day before it says, come back tomorrow or else, upgrade to this. And unfortunately, that's the way a lot of it's going to go. All right. You can see Meta, of course, is out there, and everybody's got their own opinions about these tech companies. And myself being involved in a tech world pretty much from the onset of personal computers, I've got a lot of respect for some of these companies and people, and conversely, not a lot for some others. So I'll keep that to myself. All right, and you can see here some of the regional leaders other than the US, China, of course, everywhere is doing better. And the European Union is starting to pick up on a lot more because they had not been in that business for a while. They were kind of letting the US and China take the lead. But with everything that's going on geopolitically, they're beginning to say, you know what, we need to control our own destiny a little bit. So we need to put more investment into this. Okay. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the top 5 companies by market cap, none of these guys would be here. But you can see the numbers. These are tremendous. This is as of yesterday when I pulled up these numbers. These are the top 5 companies in market cap. All of them connected to AI in one way or the other. There's no manufacturing. There's no medical. There's no healthcare. There's no banking. Okay, these are all techies. And AI is just exacerbating that. Okay, before I move to the hype and headlines, any questions, concerns before I go on? Yes, sir. Not a problem. All right, let's talk about the hype. Amazon laying off workers. AI propaganda. This is from the Wall Street Journal last week. AI could wipe out humanity. I always love that one. Everybody loves going to science fiction movies with that. Like I showed earlier, the Terminator. AI generator raises concerns. Advancement of AI brings fear in the advertising industry. Okay. Bully humans, raising red flags in Silicon Valley. Kills jobs. This one I thought was the most interesting. IBM says, if you can read it there, IBM will lay off 8,000 employees to replace them with AI. But what they didn't expect was moving to AI, they're going to hire a bunch back. Let's talk about that. The current state of AI changes every minute, like I mentioned. A lot of headlines out there, as I just showed you, good and bad. They're shaping opinions, unfortunately. Propaganda works in a lot of cases. They tend more towards what we call in the cybersecurity business FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Why? Because that gets attention, that gets eyeballs like anything else. People love to be scared, okay? It follows the common theme that we've seen forever. Change is unsettling, and dramatic change is terrifying. There's a lot of people I know, and you've probably worked with them yourselves or in your personal life, they like their life the way it is. AI is introducing change that they've never seen before. So it gets very, very frightening to a lot of people. AI is the most significant technology advancement since the personal computer and the cell phone. Significant. It's moving beyond simple tasks, and it can reorder how we live, think, and work, and learn. Big impact on the educational business. I was talking to Alberto before we got started here, and with my work at the graduate business school, working with our students, one of the things you have to realize when you're in the education business and working with students is that they are going to use AI. No matter what you say, no matter what you think, you cannot police it. They will use it. So you need to embrace it. I told Alberto, one of the things I did with my students is stop assigning too many written assignments. Why? Because you know they're writing it with AI. Sometimes you can read it and understand this is AI written. They still have to proofread it. But what I used to do with my students is write me an outline. And they could use AI for that. I don't care. Wouldn't even acknowledge it. Now, when you come into my class, stand up and explain it. Tell me why. Tell me what you mean. AI can't do that for you. So what it's doing in a lot of cases, not just in education, but almost every industry. Guys, remember the term soft skills. And everybody thought soft skills are going away because people want hard skills. They want you to be able to code. They want you to be able to program. They want you to be able to, do spreadsheets and financial modeling. AI can do all that. You have to be able to communicate, collaborate, work with a team. When you call tech support somewhere, do you like getting the automated response on the phone? How many of you go beep, 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 000, representative, representative, representative? You want to talk to a person. AI may give you a lot of answers, but they don't understand your problems. Now, one of my kids is a supervisor for the 911 system up in the state for the state of New Hampshire. And we were talking about this, and he said to me, Dad, he says, the last thing somebody who's in a 911 situation wants to know is that they're talking to a machine. They want a person to talk to. And that's what, if you're advising your family, friends, kids who are going to school now, kids who are in college now, this is what they have to work on. I'm sorry if they're an introvert, and for many, many years, introverts could hide behind computers a little bit and not have to deal with people. The differential now is they're going to have to deal with people because AI is doing that hide behind the computer work. So that can be a bit unsettling. But for them to move forward in their career, they're going to have to know that. So all those old school skills of being able to talk to people are becoming back to the front because of AI. Okay. So as I mentioned before, this is just kind of repeating myself. The benefits: automation of repetitive tasks, faster insight, enhanced decision-making, enhanced, not abdicating decision-making, enhancing it. Talk a little bit about that too. Fewer human errors, 24/7. That is one good thing about AI. You don't have to staff places up with people. AI can do certain things for you and reduce the physical risk. So here are some of those uses. Many of them you're already familiar with. Customer experience, always on support. Now, you still will try to get out to a representative, but they don't have to have as many representatives. If AI is screening, then you can get to somebody faster who can answer your question faster, which is one of the benefits. Fraud detection. This is very big. Now, in all my years in cybersecurity business, fraud detection is one of the hardest things. When I first started, when you were trying to gauge hacker attacks in a computer system, you would have your security clerical staff basically go through reams and reams of computer printouts, basically eyeballing it, looking for discrepancies. It would take hours, days, weeks, in certain cases, depending on the business. AI does it almost immediately. It can find those anomalies. One of the things in cybersecurity, aside from a big time attack where they bring down the system, a lot of attacks in the past were something called low and slow. What that was is that hackers would go in at the very lowest level they could in an organization, not attack the money right away, go into the HR system, go into the cafeteria menu system, believe it or not. We found a lot of these. Go into whatever low level they could and slowly work their way up through the technology till they got to the pot of gold, and then they would release. Finding that in the past, very onerous, very difficult, very time consuming. Not anymore. AI handles that very quickly. So hackers have gone to more direct brute force attacks as opposed to the low and slow. Okay. Predictive maintenance, it can really help with predictive maintenance. Now, I'm not a big guy. I don't have a refrigerator that tells me when to change the filter or any of that kind of stuff. I don't need that. I don't need one more nag note coming from a machine. But it does help, particularly in a data center. It helps in places where technology has to be 24/7. Like I mentioned, my son with the 911 system, you want AI to tell you when there's a potential failure, when there's something going on, when something needs to be replaced. Those are good things. Okay. And then in hiring, another part of my career with career coaching is that hiring is completely changed. For those of you who have friends, relatives who are out there looking for jobs today, or maybe even yourself, AI has completely changed the way that works. It was always, you guys know the phrase, not what you know, it's who you know. It's still a little bit of who you know. But before you get to the who you know, you got to get past the gatekeeper, which is AI. And you've got to write resumes, and you've got to set up your LinkedIn profile, and you've got to use AI to give you the best chance of getting to that human being. There's a whole art and science about how to do that. Okay, so let's talk about the impact today. For economic science and health, you can see the global economy. It's going to shift that labor market from what was typically called org chart, which you're all familiar with, a hierarchy, but basically chain of command there, to work charts where it becomes more task-oriented. Not that it wasn't in the past, it's just that you had to go through different layers of humans. Now AI is taking away that first, second, and in some cases, third level of work and moving you to the different tasks that only you as a human can do. Right? It's not just replacing it, augments it. That's the key I want everybody to understand. You hear the hype about it's going to be replaced by AI. The robots are coming for me. If you learn how to use AI properly, it is augmenting the job that you do, not replacing it. Will some jobs be replaced? Of course. There's not much of a market for stagecoach drivers anymore. But AI will replace some of those level jobs. But it will open up new fields, like any technology. Like I mentioned earlier about Excel. Technology always eliminates some and builds more once they start knowing how to use it. And I will tell you right now, in the industry, nobody really knows how to use AI quite yet. They are using it, but they're not quite sure. One of the big reasons is the landscape of AI changes day by day. Who's doing what? What's out next? Different governments, what are the political ramifications? What are they saying? And you guys can all read the headlines here. We're going through crazy whipsawing back and forth in this country about AI, many other places as well. Okay. You can see down there, Goldman Sachs estimates that AI could raise the global GDP by 7% over the next decade, which is a huge number. Okay. In science, from reactive treatments to precision medicine, treatments are specifically geared towards the individual. I know Alberto and I were talking about, in his history in the medical profession, that is crucial to getting things out faster that can benefit more people. It's been taken, I don't know, you probably know better than I do, Alberto, how long it takes a drug to go from first experimental all the way through to clinical release. Months, days, years, decades in some cases. AI can help speed that up quite a bit, actually, as you can see. The last bullet point, it organizes these clinical trials. Some AI-designed drugs are already in phase 2, which means they're moving out to human testing. Okay. The geopolitical side, this is the one that's the most dicey. Everybody is fighting. This makes the Olympics look like a trade show. You think there's competition for a gold medal? This is the biggest gold medal in the world, is balancing AI out and being the leader. So you can see it's going to reshape the global balance of power. You've heard about rare earth minerals that China has, and the situation with Greenland and other places. Yes, those are all important things that need the development of AI. Also, a lot of angst in this country about these tech giants building out these huge AI data centers, which are chewing up electricity and resources and water. Enough electricity to power New Orleans for 8 years. But they're bringing themselves off the power grid. So what are they doing for everybody else? Right now, not so much. And regulation is always behind. Always. So in my years in cybersecurity, we always said that in cybersecurity, to be secure, you have to be right 100% of the time. Hacker only has to be right once. So it's always been, the bad guys are always ahead. I'm not saying AI are bad guys, but the people developing it, they're way ahead of government and regulations. Same thing in crypto. If you're involved in that, understand the risk. Not saying don't do it, it's up to you, it's a personal decision. I don't do it, but understand the risk. Okay. Smart cities, this is big in the Middle East. Building out smart cities because of the resource constraints they have, particularly around water, wind, things like that. They're using AI to build out smart cities. The UAE is big into this and tapping into US expertise. Myself and my team, we did a lot of work in Dubai when I was at Cisco, building out some of their smart cities. Okay. And here's some more, just a graphic illustration of the economic input. The productivity is going to be huge. For companies, maybe not so much for every single individual. Like I said, some jobs will be eliminated. But from an organization's perspective, AI is a boon. Okay? It's going to redesign how things work. I think you've already seen that, and disrupt a lot of the workforce. The global AI race is tremendous. I still think we're going to come out on top for a very non-AI reason. We innovate. What we've seen over the decades is other companies copy. Other countries copy, and companies. We innovate here. And I think our innovative mindset in the US is going to continue to keep us at the lead. Now, we might have some resource issues, which we've all heard about, but I think we're going to stay ahead for that reason. It's not going to be miles ahead, but I still think we're going to be ahead. Okay. And it's going to be treated as a critical infrastructure. In the past, critical infrastructure, things like water, electricity, those types of things. AI is going to be that. Okay. For your personal life, create what they're calling a customized reality. I always like that. To me, there's reality, and then there's a customized reality. I think we'd all like to customize our reality, but that's what AI, the premise of AI is to be able to do that. Basically, you see personalized education tutors, assistants that manage your chores. In a lot of ways, it's an administrative assistant. Human relationships, we're seeing that already, calling it a new enlightenment. I love these phrases. They're all over the place. I pulled these from various publications, from the Wall Street Journal to the New York Times, everywhere. And financial inclusion, it's going to really deal with credit scoring. It's going to open up credit scoring to a lot of different people that didn't have that access in the past. So there is a lot of advantage to that and some disadvantage. Okay. This is one of the big impacts. I don't know if you can all see that. That's kind of a weird chart. On mental health care. Okay, mental health care, as you know, is a very challenging area to work in, especially as talking to all of us here in this room, as people age and they want to age in place and they want to age in their homes and they need help, and there's not enough people to do that. AI can have a profound impact on diagnosis, on detection, on therapy, on treatment plans, access to care. This is from the University of St. Augustine. I'll talk a little bit about that again later. AI is the most disruptive technology, like I said. Job replacement. It's going from job replacement to task transformation. Jobs will be replaced, as I've mentioned several times. They will be augmented as well. Okay, you can see that bullet point. I'm not going to go. But according to Vanguard, as AI integrates into the workforce by 2035, average automation rate across all U.S. jobs will exceed 20%. Essentially, one business day a week will be done by AI. Now, if you're a corporate executive and you hear that, the first thing you think of is, great, I can get rid of a bunch of people. Not necessarily. As the headline from IBM mentioned, you still have to do something with all that data. And AI can't really talk to your customers. It can only do baseline data processing. Okay. Here are some of the occupations that are being the most affected right now. Like I mentioned, white collar, middle to high paid people. Okay. Computer programming. That might sound a little, wait a minute, computer programming, this is all AI. Yeah, because AI can do the basic coding. You don't have to learn how to do basic coding anymore as a computer program. Believe me, I had many computer programmers working for me over the years. A lot of that first level coding is done by AI. It's something called vibe coding. What vibe coding means is that anybody, any one of us here in this room, could go onto AI, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT, if you like, and do some coding with that. So it eliminates that entry level, which unfortunately not only takes away jobs, but takes away a career path for undergraduates in computer programming. They have to move to something else. Okay. And again, like I said, that's the most panic. Low exposure. Okay, there's no jobs that are completely safe from AI unless you're in your own family-run business, mom and pop shop. Then that's up to you. But low exposure is things that require physical labor, social intelligence, or manual dexterity. In other words, people contact, human contact. Okay? Nursing, law enforcement, skilled trades, field work, any kind of field work, whether that means farming, whether that means civil or environmental engineering, happens to be what my daughter does, and creative arts. Yeah, AI can create pretty pictures and things like that, but they're never going to hang in the Met. Only as an example. They're not going to be worth billions, later on down the line. Those types of jobs require humans and require the insight of humans and require the face-to-face contact. AI can't read your face to see if you're buying this stuff or not. That's the difference with AI. So that's why I keep telling people, don't be afraid, but understand. You have to learn how to work with it. When I talk to my students about coding and things like that, don't learn how to code, basic coding. Computers can do that. Learn how to prompt AI. Learn how to ask AI the right questions. Learn how to give a full sentence into AI so it can do a better job. Improve AI. To your point about ChatGPT, I totally agree with you on that one. Gemini does a much better job of that right now. And then entry-level vulnerability, you can see all those I kind of just mentioned. Entry-level jobs are tough. And by the way, the market for skilled tradesmen is just going up. Everybody thought it was going down because of computers. AI is making plumbers and contractors and carpenters and electricians much more valuable. So if you have anybody in your family doing that, kudos. They'll do much better. All right. You can see the value in the workforce is shifting towards durable skills, which I mentioned earlier, or soft skills. Okay. It really elevates the importance of AI because it doesn't have that skill. It becomes plainly obvious that you can't really get the kind of emotional answer that a human would give you from AI. It's a computer. It's smart, it's fast, it's efficient, it's cold. And it's always going to be that. Okay? Soft skills are more valuable. Okay. To me, this is a key quote. The key to fully realizing their potential, their adoption and success is managing and applying those technologies securely. I always put securely in, thoughtfully and responsibly. Don't be afraid of it. Don't think it's going away. Don't be the three monkeys, no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. It's happening. It's already there. So learn how to work with it. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, here's how AI can benefit seniors, specifically. Oh yeah, good, I can do that now. Safety monitoring. There's many, many safety monitors out. Now I know that a lot of people don't like to be monitored. Like I said, my father-in-law is 91. He resists this all the time. He doesn't realize that I have an Apple AirTag in his car. So my wife will tell me, I got to call Dad. Where is he? Yeah, he's home. And it's not because I'm checking up on him. It's just he's 91. He's still driving. So, when you got weather like this outside, I worry quite a bit. I worry about myself and my 24-year-old son who's a cop. I worry about him. But yeah, I want to make sure it's out there. The other thing that I hear a lot from seniors, especially, and again, my father-in-law and several other of his friends and our relatives, I don't like I value my privacy. Nobody knows me. I'm off the grid. Nobody knows who I am. And whenever I start with this, I try to be respectful, but I say, Dad, you pay taxes? Yeah. You got a credit card? Mm-hmm. Got a cell phone? Mm-hmm. You got a utility bill? Mm-hmm. Guess what? You don't have any privacy. Nobody does. Okay. Unless you take yourself completely off the grid and have none of those and become, a hermit and live on top of a mountain. And even then we can send a drone up and find you. Get over that. Get over that right away. Now, that said, of course, you don't want to give out too much information because bad players can use that. But if you're trying to stay at home as a senior and you've got some physical limitations, having a wearable monitor can be not only good for you, but give your family peace of mind as well for things like falls or medical emergencies, that type of stuff. Send alerts to your family. Okay. Help expedite services. Now, you don't want them calling every which way, but if you fall down and you can't move, and you've all seen those commercials, I've fallen, I can't get up. That was an early example of that, but that have required the person to push it. With AI monitors now, it can detect that, like in your car. The AI that's built in a lot of your more modern cars, if you get to a fender bender, boom, the thing pops up and says, I see you've been on a crash. Do you need help? Do you need me to call 911? That's AI. And that can help on a personal level as too. Medication management, reminders to take pills. That's a big one. My father-in-law were always like, we go out to dinner with him, Dad, you got your pills? Oh yeah, he's got them. He remembers it, but remembering to take them when he's supposed to, that's a challenge for him. Unfortunately, because he's got a bunch. So they're all taken at different times with food, without food, those types of things. AI, whether it's on your phone or some other device, can remind you of that. And I've kind of built that into his phone a little bit, so it has been helpful. He gets a little ping. He's like, oh, somebody's calling me. Oh, they're telling me to take my pills. Okay. It helps. Once you get used to it, that's the whole key. Introducing it is challenging. Getting used to it, all of a sudden, it becomes second nature. Okay. Patient monitoring, that happens. Okay. Everyday tasks. Some of these things can, you've seen the smart home. That can be a little challenging because setting that up is a challenge, but it can turn your lights on and off. It can regulate your heat, your cool, whatever. You might need some support with that one, only because it's not quite fully voice recognized yet. It will get there. You'll get to a point where you'll pull up in your car, you'll walk up to your front door, lights will go on. You can walk in the house and say, turn up the heat to 72, whatever you want to have of that, and the system will do that. A lot of that is there today. It just requires a lot of setup. And if something goes wrong and you're a senior, like my father-in-law, something goes wrong with some of his stuff, at least I've trained him. The first thing he does is call me and figure out what's going on there. So you can call other people in your family or other helpers with that. Okay. It can streamline your task. It can create shopping lists for you. It can do meal planning. Meal planning is really cool. I've used that myself. I've talked to Gemini and said, you know what? I've got some pork tenderloin in the refrigerator. What can I do with that? And I also have potatoes, I have rice, I have carrots, it'll give you a bunch of recipes. Okay. There's a lot of games. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but there's a lot of games, silly games and actually cognitive games that can help with different areas. Okay. And then some of these can promote a lot of stimulation as far as brain stimulation. Again, Alberto, I would defer to your expertise on things like that. This is some of the cooler stuff that it can do. It can help summarize documents. Okay. You can input into AI a lot of your documentation. You can see your letters, your insurance information, emails, and say, can you summarize this AI into simple terms for me? Or plug in your insurance policy. You can actually upload your insurance policy into an AI chat or any of them and say, summarize for me the major points and things I have to do. And AI can do that very quickly. Obviously, you don't take that as gospel. You still have to look at it and read it, make sure you understand it, but it can do those types of summarize huge documents. I will tell you though, don't ask it to read software license agreements. Those things are ridiculous. Just click yes. I mentioned the recipes before. Travel planning. Yeah. Some people still use travel agents like we mentioned earlier, but outside of that, even when you talk to a travel agent, you can do this first and come in and say, I have this itinerary and this is the cost estimated by, I put into AI. Can you do better? It allows you to bargain from intelligence. Okay. And in writing communications, you can write letters, you can write emails, even if you're so inclined to write your own memoir. AI can help with that by plugging in the information much faster than you sitting there typing it yourself and rereading it and getting lost because you reread the same paragraph 5 times, that type of thing. Okay. Shopping assistance, brains. Oh my God, what do I buy my grandson who's 15? What are they into these days? You can type that in, it'll give you a list. Okay. Entertainment, find me something to watch. I've done that with my father-in-law. Yeah, there's no good movies out there. Okay, let's ask. I say, what movies? And he's got certain criteria about vulgarity and nudity and violence and all that kind of stuff. So I plug all that in. And then I say, given this zip code where I live, what channels have those movies? And it comes back with a list. Most of it's on MeTV or things like that, but it comes back with a list. So those are the types of things you can do in there. Again, instead of just getting upset that you can't find anything, you're sitting there ripping through all the channels and hitting commercials in between every one. You don't know what the hell they're saying. So AI can help with that. All right. Photo organization. This is one that AI does a very good job with, but there's a lot of upfront work with that. You have to have a Google account. You have to have Google Photos, and you got to upload and scan or put a lot of stuff in there. So yeah, that's kind of time consuming for you, but it does do a good job once it's all in there. Okay. And then also with the hiring perspective, if you've got volunteer organizations like, 5 years ago, I could have plugged into AI, what's the Summit Old Guard? And it would have told me. And I would have seen probably your YouTube videos or other things that are out there in public domain. So what you can ask for volunteer or even job opportunities based upon your skills and your talents. Okay. So let's talk about risks. It's not without risk. It's not all, sunshine and flowers. There's a lot of privacy concerns, like I mentioned. You want to exercise caution. Right? Things are not private, but there are certain things that AI does a very good job of enticing you to divulge more information than you should. Please don't use public Wi-Fi if you don't already know that. I just reiterate that every time. Public Wi-Fi is not a good place to be. Even if you're in your doctor's office and they have Wi-Fi, that's one of the worst places. As opposed to, if you're traveling and you're in a cheap hotel, certainly don't use their Wi-Fi. I don't use airport Wi-Fi. I don't use anything like that. If you got to ring up your cell phone charges, creating your own hotspot, do that. But don't use public Wi-Fi. People sit on public Wi-Fi and poach and wait for you to divulge too much information. I was sitting in Newark Airport one time and watched the guy doing his banking online off the public Wi-Fi. And I'm like, I didn't know him, just another guy sitting there. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, do I be that obnoxious security guy and tell him, hey, buddy, I see what you're doing there and you shouldn't? Fortunately for him, the system glitched on him and his computer ran out of battery. So I didn't have to worry about it, but it was, not a thing you should be doing. I know he's probably trying to get something done. Not a good look. Don't do that ever. Okay. Use reputable AI tools. Like you mentioned, ChatGPT, you don't like, but it is reputable. Gemini is out there. There's a lot of good tools. I would stay with those market leaders. If Microsoft puts something out there, it's been regression tested in their labs. It's going to work. It might not tell you everything you want to know, but it will work, and it is relatively secure. Okay. And safeguard your data. Again, you've been hearing this since the early days of computers, strong passwords. All right. So seniors, we're all targeted. Why are we targeted? Well, three big things. Technological vulnerability. What's that? Everybody believes that, seniors are stupid and don't know how to use computers. So that's why you're targeted. Okay. There's emotional manipulation. You've probably all heard of the grandparent scheme. And you get that phone call or that text message or that email. Hi, I'm in Guadalajara. I got arrested. I need money to get out of here. Yeah. And then financial resources. They figure seniors have a little bit more money than people who are working, and they want to dupe them out. You hear on the news all the time, these scams that get to certain people. Right? We all need to be aware of it. One other thing that's not on there, but I just find this from my own personal experience working with a lot of different people, is that in the generation that you were born and raised in, there was a different societal impact back then than there is today, or has been in the last 10, 15, 20 years. A lot of us were trained to basically trust people if they seemed like decent people. And back then, you thought you could easily pin out a criminal. It's not so easy anymore. Okay? There's a lot of, again, I go back to my father-in-law being 91. He will get something in the mail saying this, missionary needs a new roof in, Cancun someplace. And he's like, oh, I know that order. I should give them some money. It's like, no, you don't. You don't know who they are or what that is. And there's ways to check. But there's just a presumption that you're going to trust people. That's something you have to, I know it sounds cynical, but you got to get over it. Okay. There's the voice cloning scam. This is a big one. This is where AI has really had an impact. Alberto and I were talking about this earlier. The level of voice scamming that they can do is tremendous. Why? Because again, generationally, our younger generation tends to put their whole life out on social media. They're using Facebook and Instagram and TikTok especially, and they're showing their face and they're singing and laughing and talking, and it's very easy for an AI scammer to capture their voice. They don't even have to do anything criminal. They've already put it out there. So if you're posting a lot of social media and you're filming yourself and doing videos and selfies, very easy for AI scammers to capture that, your image, your voice, and then use that to clone it and target your friends and family and businesses, presuming to be you. Okay? It's very, very prevalent now, and you have to be incredibly cautious about that. One of the things, again, we were talking earlier about when you get a video from someone purporting to be your friend, your family, whatever it may be, sometimes take a look at that video. If it's too perfect, it's not them. When I look at you in the face, you don't look perfect. Sorry, neither do I. But some of those deepfake videos, they look like a department store mannequin come to life. So these are kind of things you need to be aware of when you're looking at that. These deepfakes have gotten trained. You've seen them already, and they are throughout politics and propaganda. It's just crazy. They're all over the internet. This guy pretending to do this, this woman pretending to do that. You have to basically ignore all of those. It's not true. Just go with the premise that it's not true. Okay? The investment scams, those are big ones. I got your name, or I know you, or we used to work together at so-and-so. Hey, I've got a great business opportunity. The age-old advice is, if it sounds too good to be true, Yeah, it is. AI is just the next version of that. You think of it as an AI con man, that's pretty much what it is. Okay. And then the phishing emails, those are really big. Getting out there asking you for support. Okay. It's not going to happen. The romance scams, that's another one that targets seniors. A lot of senior citizens are widowed. You want some, companionship, and it doesn't have to be, some young person. It can be, hey, I used to work here and I live in that same town and blah, 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 blah. Why don't we get together? It's both romance and or friend. Yeah, loneliness is a big issue. But as the old saying goes, if you want a friend, get a dog. A small dog, Phil says. Yeah, because you got to pick that up. So yeah, walking around with that St. Bernard is kind of tough. Okay. That's the long lost friends scam. And again, the long lost friend scam is easy because if you've ever been on social media, if you've been, anybody here, professionally was on LinkedIn or showed up in Who's Who or any of those kind of things, you got a list of where you worked. Hey, you and I used to work together at AT&T back in. Do you remember? And they always will try. Do you remember Alberto, that guy who worked? People are embarrassed to say no. Oh yeah, I think so. And then they're in again. It's the age-old con man. It used to be done on the phone or in person. Now it's done with AI. Okay. So here are the red flags. And this is a big one, especially. Legitimate companies and or government agencies, the IRS, the Social Security Administration, Medicare, people like that, will never demand immediate payment. Never. Never. I've worked with many, many government organizations. They never, ever do that. The one good thing about government agencies that people complain about, good and bad, is that they're slow. Well, they're slow because they don't do this. You're going to hear from them in the mail. Okay. They will not threaten arrest. Many of the scams now, you're seeing things. My daughter even got one. There's an arrest warrant out for you for unpaid parking tickets. We are going to be able to arrest you. Our agents are standing by, ready to come into your house. All that kind of stuff. Unless you pay immediately. Now go to Home Depot and buy 600 Amazon gift cards, that kind of thing. You hear stuff like that, click, delete, goodbye. Okay. And they'll never pressure you to act immediately. No government agency or legitimate company, Bank of America, any of those kind of people are not going to say, you must do this within 24 hours. If you see somebody telling you to do something today within 24 hours, it's a scam, period. Delete it, get rid of it, report it. Especially if it comes supposedly from your bank or financial institutions. All of them, and again, I set up many of these for Bank of America, for JP Morgan Chase, for Citi. They all have facilities online to report these types of things. They want to know because they will investigate. I've been involved in those investigations. They take it very seriously, even though you might not think so. They do. Bank of America especially has a huge IT security force, even bigger than some IT security companies. Hundreds of people worldwide. So they do take this stuff seriously. So don't feel embarrassed to report it because you're not the only one being targeted. Okay. Unexpected contact, they're going to, like I said, contact you by mail. The threats, unsolicited. But is, if you didn't initiate the contact, it's probably not true. If you reached out to Bank of America for something, they call you back, that's different. You started this. Chances are no hacker is intercepting communications. That used to happen in the old days of dial-up modems. Doesn't happen anymore because, like I said, these banks and financial institutions, Bank of America, JP Morgan especially, have tremendous end-to-end security. Now, can something happen? Sure, but in likelihood is not. So report these things. Let them know this has happened. Okay. A safety precaution. If you get these kind of scams and you're not sure, establish a family code word for real emergencies. So for instance, the grandparent scam. Your grandson calls you from Guadalajara, say, oh, you are? Okay, what's the code? Click. They're not going to know that. So if you establish a family code, You know, maybe where you grew up, maybe where you went to school. I wouldn't go with those too many times because people can find that out. Go with something really weird, you know, really known only to the family. Yeah. What did Uncle Bill spill on himself at the last New Year's Eve party? That's when nobody's going to know except people who were there. So you use those kind of things. I've heard that before, actually. Never send money or gift cards. Nobody asks for that kind of stuff from a real organization. Okay. If you want to verify, to your point, there's one thing about don't answer the phone, but if you do, hang up and say, I'll call you right back. I'm busy. They're supposed to be your relative. You know their phone number. Call up your grandson, you know, Johnny, were you in Mexico? What? You kidding me? I'm at work. What do you want? That kind of thing. Call them right back. Be skeptical of anything too good to be true again, and anything you did not initiate. Okay. Don't share your financial information with any AI chatbot. You get a text message saying, you know, we need to reaffirm your bank account number. No bank is going to do that. And again, if you're frightened of it, don't give it, call the bank. Did you guys send out a text? Chances are you'll get their fraud detection department that say, no, sir, that's a scam. Again, they're all very good at, so I will tell you, if I leave you with anything, it's trust those known financial institutions that you already work with. Nobody's going to call you asking for your account number. They have your account number. Just be aware of this stuff. It's very easy to get caught up. These fakes, these people on the phone, they're very good at what they do. Okay. Now here's some misconceptions. We talked earlier about, we talk about these things. It's only for youth. Myth is only for young people. I don't need it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to work with it. Okay. It's only useful for, it's not useful for me. Okay. The reality is, as you can see, by this year, 19% of those of us 65 and over are using something. Okay. Some more than others. Okay. 80% of seniors who use AI voice assistants like Alexa or Siri, they're highly beneficial. That's a survey from the Gartner Group. Okay. The human-like understanding myth, if it sounds polite or empathetic or wise, it understands me. It's mentioning things that it knows about me. As I said earlier, there is so much that can be found out about you online. Before I was coming here, I'm not going to divulge what I did, but I did go into AI and I looked up Alberto. Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. Now, just so you know, he's a good guy. He's not wanted anywhere or anything like that. Interpol is not looking for him. He's good. But just a tremendous amount of information. Why? Because he has a professional life and a professional profile, and he has children and he has family. You all do. So it's easy to find that. You can just ask AI. I simply asked, what can you tell me about Alberto? His full name, of course. It came back with a bunch of stuff, and I asked it to dive down a little deeper. Not to embarrass him, but to make a point. And again, like I said, he's a good guy. Okay. Don't treat it as a person. It's not. Okay. Might sound like one. It's not. This is a big one, particularly for seniors, the medical authority. Anybody watch a TV series? It was on HBO Max, The Pit. Heard of it? Yeah. One of the lines in that show is I thought was great. It plays right into here is the lead doctor there, the resident was saying, oh yeah, our worst nightmare is Dr. Google. You know, it's one thing to go online. Yeah, I'm feeling a little scratchy throat. I wonder what that could be. Almost always, it's a hypochondriac's paradise. Oh my God, you have, you know, dengue fever. It's like, hold on. You got to be careful. People go to the internet and they use AI, and AI's gotten better. It's not just a search engine now. Some AI can tell you, this is what you have, and here's your course of treatment. And God only knows what they're going to tell you to do. Okay? So you got to be careful not to get too involved in that. Right. Again, I mentioned this earlier, the replacement fear about doctors and nurses, not going to happen. Patient care is patient care. It's hands-on. Okay. The magic fact checker. Oh, you know what? I've been around the block so many times, I can spot a fake a mile away. No, you can't. These things are way more sophisticated than anything you've ever dealt with. And again, you're all already using AI. You've got Siri, Alexa. I use Grammarly in my writing. Google Assistant, Cortana, Bixby, QuickBooks, Photoshop, any search engine, all social media platforms. Oh, and by the way, your GPS as well. It's all AI. You've been using it for years. Okay, here's three of the big ones. As we already mentioned, Chat, Gemini, Copilot. Copilot's good too if you haven't used it. Okay, and that's it. Thank you for your time.
Well, first, thank you for that wonderful talk. It's the most comprehensive and best talk on AI I've heard, and I've heard many recently.
Thank you.
There's a lot of talk about how important it is to regulate AI, but I haven't heard any good proposals. So my question is, how should AI be regulated and who should do it?
That's an excellent question. It's you're really correct on one point. Regulation is always behind. It's been behind on crypto. It's behind on AI. How should it be regulated? My thinking is always, and again, as a security manager and security officer, it should be regulated by anybody who's not directly connected to profitability from AI. In most cases, that's government agencies. Okay. AI right now is trying to be self-regulated by the very people who are building it. They're chasing the money, right? Regulation will go behind for two reasons. Number one, they haven't wrapped their arms around it yet. It's changing constantly. We don't know where it's going to go. Governments, our own and others, are going back and forth with how they want to enforce it and what they should do with it, and are taking the lead from these tech giants. And again, I've worked with a lot of these tech giants in the past. Some are pretty upfront people. Others are just solely chasing money. So to me, it needs to be, we need Congress basically to step up and do their job and start looking at, yeah, I know, but that's where it has to reside. It can't reside in one or a small group of individuals. It can't reside with just the president. It can't reside with, certainly not with companies. It has to be something that's looked at for the good of the people. It's a very difficult situation in question right now because, like I said, regulation, even banking regulations, FDIC, things like that, they were behind originally 100 years ago until they got their act together and started putting that in place. So there's no good answer for it right now. The only answer is really to be vigilant and continue to hammer people, as you just mentioned, Alfred, about regulating this, because unregulated, it can be a disaster.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Good presentation. I used Google to update the information on the tax information we're going to present this afternoon. In my business, I deal with objective facts and information about capital investment projects. I retired from ExxonMobil, and we were not in the business of publishing information about how we did business. Yet I'm going down to the University of Maryland and present a paper on, project outcomes. I guarantee, I've done some initial research, but I guarantee you that none of these programs are going to give me what I need. And it's been noted that these programs have hallucinations. I talk to guys who write books and have citations, right? Yeah, books. And
ebooks.
He starts asking questions about what is this? What's the citation? And it's a hallucination made up. And then he tells AI this, and it's still a hallucination.
It will exacerbate the hallucination.
Yeah. So tell me about the solution. All these companies keep this information locked up. The last thing they're going to do is publish it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Agree. Well, first of all, appreciate your career at Exxon. My dad worked there for 44 years. Good company. Got me through schools and college. So, there's a lot, again, misinformation, hallucination, whatever you want to call it with AI. What has to happen is what happened in the early days of cybersecurity with firewalls and things like that. It's going to create an industry of security companies specifically around that. Those are going to be the policemen on this type of stuff. and be able to take a look at these hallucinations as you mentioned them. In the early days when people started getting on the internet, firewall logs were just reams and reams of data that nobody looked at until companies like Checkpoint and others came along and said, wait a minute, you guys need to stop and take a look at this because not all of this is true. I mentioned the low and slow attacks before. This is exactly what's happening today with AI. AI is printing out misinformation, okay? Not because it does it on its own, a little bit, but mostly because, as you mentioned, Alan, people are putting in this type of information. And what AI does is just say, okay, yeah, you're right. Let me just keep going. Right, just grabs it. So that's the key. You got to have more security software built around AI into it. And that's always, again, like I mentioned, unfortunately, behind the curve. Okay.
Thank you. I'll keep my question short. So China is making a lot of inroads in social scoring, where they combine all kinds of information. Google has written is basically a credit score or a social score. They have facial recognition all over the place. Do you know if that has any progress here in our country?
Yes, it does. It's probably not as pronounced or user known as TikTok and Google and things like that. When you say facial recognition, you're talking about people who are putting their face on social media. They're out there. No, I know. Out in the public, yeah. In years past, China and Europe have been ahead of us in the use of public-facing cameras and things like that and using facial recs. We're getting there. I mean, you can't walk in New York City without being recorded, okay? So again, it's the same premise that we're a little bit behind the curve on this type of stuff. You can do these things in China because you have the type of society where they basically have no recourse. And they're not as litigious as we are. Obviously, nobody is. So that's a key issue to it. So the legal and the security professions have to get together and behind this, and that's a big ask. And that's really where the key is. There's no good answer to it right now. Is it being looked at and worked on? I can tell you from my past experience at Cisco and Dell and working with some of our clients, the answer is yes. Is it ready for prime time? The answer is no. Yes, absolutely. Not only what they can and cannot do, but what they can and cannot see and hear. And that's the key.
Regarding the spam and so forth, is there some way we could break through to a human? For instance, hit random numbers when they want a numeric answer or mutter like I do. Can you speed the movement to a human?
Mm-hmm. You talk about when you're on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Are there ways?
Yes. Yeah, there are. In most cases, I mentioned earlier that if you're talking to a customer service organization, depending upon what it is, you can keep hitting either the number 1 or the number 0. And eventually it will say, okay, I see that you want to speak to an agent. Or you can continue to say representative or agent into the phone. You may have to do that 5, 6, 10 times before you get someplace, but you can get there. It's a combination of different things like that, either pressing those buttons or saying the words, representative or agent. They'll eventually get you there. It won't happen right away. You'll say, representative, I see you'd like to speak to a representative. Before I connect you, can you tell me a little bit more about your problem so I can get the right one? Representative. Oh, okay. Well, if you can help me out with more information, representative, 4, 5, 6 times, depending upon.
Persist.
Yes, persist. Persist. Be a nag.
Okay, so we'll try to use the microphone. So I used the Google AI tool for the first time yesterday. And all I was doing basically was writing a 2-sentence reply back to my doctor to have my prescription updated. And, you know, what I sent them was the sentence that we developed, my wife and I, and we put it into the system, and yeah, we got a nice one, nice back from Google. And I would say it was similar. I mean, would it be a lot better? Don't know about that, but the issue I have is, I mean, it wouldn't take my wife and I very long to do an oversight of it to see whether, you know, there wasn't any swear words or anything like that in there. But how does that happen when you're talking about, you know, security, really stuff at military?
Mm-hmm.
you know, how much oversight are you going to require before you find out that somebody pushed the button for, you know, nuke release, you know? So my question is, what level of oversight is appropriate and how that would be defined? But it wouldn't be oversight by the AI system itself, would it?
No. They wouldn't use AI to basically police itself. And there's differences. Obviously, what you said, your experience working from a personal medical perspective, yeah, there's not much there. You're going to get a similar response to what you probably already had in your head. When you're dealing with things that are much more complex or potentially geopolitical impact, there are teams of people who work on this. I mean, I know how it's done in the government. And AI, in large cases, your Microsoft AI is not connected to the Department of Defense. Department of Defense does everything inside a SCIF. I can't tell you how many protocols that I had to go through. I had top secret clearance at one time to go into these different data centers. They are totally disconnected from this. Okay, but there are teams of people. I can't tell you how many or how long it would take, but certainly anything that you mentioned, any kind of, kind of military action is not relying on AI.
We have a question online, Ronald Weinwenger. You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I've been, let's say, chatting with Copilot for some time, and we've been doing research on various things. And I came up with some information that Copilot, am I still, yeah, I'm still unmuted. Copilot didn't know. So after I provided that information and we went further into it, I asked it, if I went on another Copilot, would it know about this? And it said no. Copilots don't talk to each other. So there is some security built into these systems that, cause I asked it why, and it said because of privacy. So there is some built in.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. An individual computer session is an individual computer session. They don't speak to each other. Yeah, so that's exactly right. If you open up a Copilot session, ask it a question, go to another computer, open up another tab, open up Copilot again, it's going to have no idea that you've already used it. So yeah, that's absolutely correct.
But I also found out that if you don't know enough, AI, like these Copilot, will give you the wrong information if you don't know it's doing so.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned earlier about teaching people now to do AI prompting. There's a lot of not knowing how to ask AI a question. You can ask it a basic question, you will get a basic answer. If you want to get a little bit more in depth, you have to give it more. It's the same principle that computers have had forever. The more information you can give it, the more accurate, to your point, more accurate information to give it, the more accurate and complex an answer you will get.
Last question, Graham, you want to come?
Excellent lecture. Want to look at AI from the perspective of national defense. The American way of war for the last 100 years is to be to overwhelm them, use the world's largest economy, crush them. We no longer have the world's largest economy. We no longer have the world's best education system, perhaps. So you've got China and perhaps also India using a top-down national program to develop industries like this. We've seen what they've done in renewable energies in the last decade. It's kind of scary. How optimistic are you that the laissez-faire way of doing this that America is doing is going to win out in the next decade or two versus the more top-down way of things happening in China?
Yeah, excellent question and good points on that. We are facing a global challenge that we probably never faced before, not only in the US, but in Western Europe as well. The top-down approach from China and others is one because they can. Societally, they can do that. They can basically make their people, force their people to do anything they want and work at it that way. I mentioned earlier, but I think we're going to stay ahead, not as ahead as we've been in the past, because of innovation. Typically, those other countries are not big on innovation. They tend to take the lead from us on that. Now, again, the other problem that we have, China and others, their government is in place for the long haul. Xi's getting rid of everybody who could possibly challenge him. We have a different political structure here. So what's going on right now, depending upon, the upcoming elections, the election in 2028, things could change dramatically as far as how that goes. So that's another part. There's a lot of turmoil in our system. That's built in by design. The key is keeping the people in the right places who can do things. My biggest concern about what's going on in our current government is getting rid of expertise. That bothers me quite a bit. Regardless of their political leanings, one way or the other, that's irrelevant. What's relevant is how much do they know? And those people we need to keep in place, regardless of where they come from or what they're, again, like their political leanings. And that's the difference. So we have to make sure we keep that. I think more and more voters and more politicians are becoming cognizant. They're not cognizant yet, but they're becoming cognizant of that issue. And we realize, especially in the AI world, in this competition, as you mentioned, this is a competition not of guns. This is a competition of intellect. And we need to keep the intellect in place to make sure we stay ahead. And that's the big issue.
Ken, thank you very much. I think we can all say we feel a lot more smarter now after your and Alberto, you want to come in and thank the speaker?
You're smarter and not scared.
Thank you so much for this enjoyable talk.
Thank you.
A time of recognition, Ken. This is our certificate of appreciation.
Thank you very much.
We have included here the logo, which is an orchid. And I don't know if you are aware, but Summit was the capital of the orchid of this area of the country in the 30s. So we took this to put into
Yeah, I know we have
our
this here in New Providence way back, but I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
And the second way is basically the salute from the old guy.
Thank you. Appreciate this. Appreciate your time and attention, and don't be afraid. Go and use it.